The morning sun cast long golden rays across the tarmac of New Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport as the royal aircraft touched down with practiced precision. Inside the cabin, Catherine adjusted the delicate pearl earrings that had belonged to William's grandmother, her fingers trembling slightly with anticipation. This wasn't just another diplomatic visit, it was a journey that would forever change how she viewed herself and her role within the royal family. William reached across the narrow aisle and squeezed her hand gently. "Ready for this?" he asked, his blue eyes reflecting the same mixture of excitement and nervousness that she felt coursing through her veins. They had been briefed extensively about the cultural significance of their visit, but nothing could have prepared them for the emotional weight of what lay ahead. As the aircraft door opened, a wave of warm, fragrant air swept into the cabin, carrying with it the scents of jasmine, cardamom, and something indefinably magical that seemed to whisper promises of transformation. Catherine took a deep breath, smoothed down her conservative navy dress, and stepped into the Indian sunshine for the first time. The crowd gathered at the airport was unlike anything she had experienced before. Thousands of people had gathered behind security barriers, their faces lit up with genuine warmth and curiosity. Children waved small British and Indian flags while their parents held up homemade signs welcoming the royal couple. The energy was infectious, and Catherine found herself genuinely smiling as she waved back, feeling an unexpected connection to these strangers who had taken time from their busy lives to greet them. Their first stop was a brief meeting with local dignitaries at the airport VIP lounge, where Catherine was introduced to several prominent Indian women who would play crucial roles in the coming days. Among them was Mrs. Priya Sharma, a renowned cultural historian who specialized in Mughal-era fashion and traditions. Mrs. Sharma's eyes sparkled with wisdom and kindness as she explained the significance of their upcoming visit to various historical sites. "Your Royal Highness," Mrs. Sharma said, her voice carrying the melodious accent that Catherine was already growing to love, "India has a way of revealing things about ourselves that we never knew existed. I hope this journey brings you as much joy as it brings all of us to have you here." Those words would prove to be prophetic in ways Catherine couldn't yet imagine. Their motorcade wound through the bustling streets of Delhi, and Catherine pressed her face to the tinted window, mesmerized by the kaleidoscope of life unfolding before her eyes. Street vendors hawked colorful bangles and fragrant flowers, their voices creating a symphony of commerce that spoke to her soul. Women in vibrant saris glided through the crowds like living pieces of art, their graceful movements making Catherine suddenly conscious of her own rigid posture and conservative clothing. The contrast between her formal Western attire and the flowing, colorful garments of the local women wasn't lost on her. She had always prided herself on dressing appropriately for royal engagements, but, here in India, appropriate seemed to mean something entirely different. It meant embracing color, celebrating femininity, and wearing one's cultural heritage like a badge of honor. Their first official engagement was at a children's hospital, where Catherine was scheduled to meet with young patients and their families. As she walked through the corridors, her heels clicking against the polished floors, she noticed how the children's eyes lit up not just at meeting a princess, but at seeing someone from so far away who had come to learn about their world. One little girl, perhaps 6 years old, with enormous dark eyes and a shy smile, approached Catherine with a small gift wrapped in bright orange tissue paper. Inside was a tiny bracelet made of colorful threads and small silver bells that chimed softly when moved. The child's mother explained in broken English that her daughter had made it specially for the beautiful princess from England. Catherine knelt down to the child's level, allowing her to tie the bracelet around her wrist. The simple gesture created a moment of pure connection that transcended language barriers and cultural differences. As the bells chimed softly with her movements, Catherine felt something shift inside her heart. This wasn't about protocol or duty, this was about human connection, about bridging worlds through simple acts of kindness and acceptance. That evening, as they settled into their suite at the opulent Taj Palace Hotel, Catherine stood on the balcony overlooking the gardens, the little girl's bracelet still adorning her wrist. The bells chimed gently in the warm evening breeze, and she found herself thinking about transformation, about the courage it takes to step outside one's comfort zone and embrace something entirely new. William joined her on the balcony, loosening his tie and rolling up his sleeves. "Quite a day," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "How are you feeling about tomorrow?" Tomorrow would bring their visit to several historical sites, including the Red Fort and Humayun's tomb, where they would learn about Mughal architecture and culture. But, more importantly, tomorrow would bring Catherine's first meeting with Anita Dongre, India's most celebrated fashion designer, who had been commissioned to create something special for the royal visit. Nervous, Catherine admitted, leaning back against William's chest. But, also excited. There's something about this place, about these people, that makes me want to be more than I've ever been before. Does that make sense? William chuckled softly, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. Perfect sense. I think that's exactly what this trip is supposed to do. Challenge us, change us, help us grow. As they stood there in comfortable silence, watching the lights of Delhi twinkle like earthbound stars, neither of them could have imagined how prophetic those words would prove to be. The transformation that awaited Catherine wasn't just about wearing a beautiful dress or learning about a new culture, it was about discovering a part of herself that had been waiting patiently to emerge. The next morning dawned bright and clear, with the promise of adventure hanging in the air like incense. Catherine chose a simple cream-colored dress with modest sleeves and a respectful hemline, paired with nude heels and minimal jewelry. As she looked at herself in the ornate hotel mirror, she wondered if this would be the last time she saw herself as simply Catherine, the dutiful royal wife who always played it safe. Their first stop was the Red Fort, a magnificent example of Mughal architecture that left Catherine breathless with its grandeur. As their guide explained the history of the emperors who had once called this place home, Catherine found herself imagining the women who had lived within these walls, the empresses and princesses who had worn elaborate outfits and lived lives of unimaginable luxury and complexity. The Mughal court was renowned for its fashion, their guide explained as they walked through the ornate halls. The empresses were style icons of their time, setting trends that influenced fashion across the entire subcontinent. They understood that clothing was more than fabric. It was a form of artistic expression, a way to honor their heritage while making personal statements about their identity and power. Those words resonated deeply with Catherine, who had spent years carefully curating a wardrobe that was appropriate, safe, and utterly forgettable. She had never thought of clothing as artistic expression or personal empowerment. To her, it had always been about following protocol and avoiding controversy. After lunch, they visited Humayun's tomb, where the afternoon light filtered through the ancient archways, creating patterns of light and shadow that seemed almost magical. Catherine found herself drawn to the intricate inlay work and delicate carvings that decorated every surface. The attention to detail was extraordinary, with each element serving both a functional and aesthetic purpose. "This is where we'll be meeting Anita Dongre tomorrow," William mentioned casually as they explored the gardens surrounding the tomb. "She wanted to show you her designs in a setting that would help you understand the historical context of what she's created for you." Catherine's heart skipped a beat. Tomorrow would bring the moment she had been both anticipating and dreading since learning about this special commission. Anita Dongre was known for creating outfits that celebrated Indian heritage while incorporating modern sensibilities, and the idea of wearing something so far outside her comfort zone was both thrilling and terrifying. That evening, as they dined at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the bustling streets of Old Delhi, Catherine found herself watching the women at neighboring tables. Each one seemed to carry herself with a confidence and grace that she envied. Their clothing told stories about their personalities, their heritage, and their individual sense of style. Even the simplest sari became a work of art when worn by someone who understood its cultural significance and embraced its beauty. "I've been thinking," Catherine said to William as they shared a dessert of kulfi garnished with pistachios and rose petals. "Maybe it's time I stopped playing it so safe with everything, including fashion. Maybe it's time I took some risks." William raised an eyebrow, intrigued by this unexpected declaration from his traditionally conservative wife. "What kind of risks are we talking about?" Catherine fingered the bracelet the little girl had given her, listening to the gentle chime of the bells. "I don't know yet. But I feel like this place is asking me to be brave, to step outside the box I built around myself and see what happens." As they made their way back to the hotel through the vibrant night markets, Catherine felt a sense of anticipation building in her chest. Tomorrow would bring her meeting with Anita Dongre and her first glimpse of the outfit that had been specially created for her. More importantly, tomorrow would be the beginning of a transformation that would change not just how she looked, but how she saw herself and her role in the world. The last thing she remembered before falling asleep that night was the sound of the tiny bells on her bracelet, chiming softly in the darkness like a promise of beautiful things to come. She had no way of knowing that those bells would prove to be harbingers of a transformation so profound that it would redefine her understanding of herself, her heritage, and her power as both a woman and a royal. The morning arrived with the gentle persistence of a Delhi dawn, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold that seemed to promise magic. Catherine woke earlier than usual, her heart already racing with anticipation for what lay ahead. Today would be the day she met Anita Dongre, and today would be the day she first laid eyes on the outfit that had been specially designed for her visit to India. As she prepared for the morning's activities, Catherine found herself taking extra care with her appearance, though she couldn't quite explain why. She chose a simple white kurta and dark pants that her stylist had purchased for the trip, wanting to show respect for local customs while still maintaining her characteristic modesty. The outfit felt foreign against her skin, the flowing fabric so different from the structured dresses and tailored suits she was accustomed to wearing. William noticed the change in her demeanor immediately. "You seem different this morning," he observed as they shared breakfast on their private terrace, the sounds of the awakening city providing a gentle soundtrack to their meal. "More alive somehow." Catherine paused with her cup of masala chai halfway to her lips, considering his words. "I feel different," she admitted. "Like I'm standing on the edge of something important, something that might change everything." Their first appointment of the day was at a local textile museum, where Catherine would learn about the history and cultural significance of Indian fashion before meeting with Anita Dongre. The museum curator, Dr. Meera Kapoor, was an elegant woman in her 50s who wore a stunning silk sari in deep emerald green with gold threadwork that caught the light as she moved. "Fashion in India has always been about more than mere decoration," Dr. Kapoor explained as she guided Catherine through galleries filled with exquisite garments spanning centuries. Each piece tells a story about the wearer, their region, their social status, and their personal taste. Clothing here is a form of communication, a way to express one's identity and honor one's heritage. Catherine found herself mesmerized by a display of Mogol court costumes, their rich fabrics and intricate embellishments speaking to a level of craftsmanship and artistic vision that took her breath away. One piece in particular caught her attention, a deep blue lehenga with silver threadwork that seemed to capture moonlight in its folds. This belonged to a Mogol princess from the 17th century, Dr. Kapoor explained, noticing Catherine's fascination with the garment. She was known for her diplomatic skills and her ability to bridge cultural divides. Like you, she understood that sometimes the most powerful statement a woman can make is through her choice to embrace and celebrate the culture she's visiting. The words hit Catherine with unexpected force. She had never thought of her clothing choices as diplomatic tools or cultural statements. To her, fashion had always been about propriety and protocol, about blending in rather than standing out. But, here, surrounded by centuries of garments that had been created to celebrate rather than conceal, she began to understand that perhaps she had been thinking about it all wrong. After the museum visit, they traveled to Anita Dongre's atelier, a beautiful space that managed to be both thoroughly modern and deeply rooted in traditional Indian aesthetics. The walls were adorned with sketches and fabric samples, while mannequins displayed some of Dongre's most celebrated creations. The air smelled of sandalwood and jasmine, and soft sitar music played in the background. Anita Dongre herself was even more impressive in person than Catherine had expected. She moved with the grace of someone completely comfortable in her own skin, her own outfit a perfect example of how traditional Indian fashion could be both respectful of heritage and thoroughly contemporary. Her dark hair was pulled back in an elegant bun, and she wore a stunning ivory and gold anarkali that managed to be both modest and utterly captivating. "Your Royal Highness," Anita said, her voice warm with genuine pleasure as she greeted Catherine. "I cannot tell you how honored I am to have this opportunity. When I first learned that I would be creating something special for your visit to India, I knew it had to be something extraordinary, something that would honor both your grace and the rich traditions of Indian craftsmanship." Catherine felt her pulse quicken with anticipation. "I'm so grateful for your artistry," she replied. "I understand that you've created something inspired by Mogol design?" Anita's eyes lit up with passion as she began to explain her vision. The Mogol era represents one of the most sophisticated periods in Indian fashion history. The emperors and empresses of that time understood that clothing could be both beautiful and powerful, that the right outfit could communicate respect, authority, and cultural appreciation all at once. She led Catherine to a private viewing area where several assistants waited with knowing smiles. "I've created 3 pieces for you," Anita continued. "Each one tells a different story, but all of them are designed to help you feel as beautiful and confident as you deserve to feel." The first piece was revealed with a flourish of silk, and Catherine gasped audibly. It was a stunning emerald green lehenga with gold embroidery that seemed to dance in the light. The intricate threadwork depicted lotus flowers and paisley motifs, each stitch a testament to the skill of the artisans who had created it. "This represents growth and new beginnings," Anita explained. "The lotus is sacred in Indian culture because it grows from mud but blooms into something beautiful and pure. I thought it might resonate with your own journey of discovery here in India." The second piece was even more breathtaking, a deep purple outfit with silver accents that seemed to capture starlight in its folds. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, with tiny mirrors embedded in the embroidery that caught and reflected light with every movement. "This one is about finding your inner light and letting it shine," Anita said softly. "Sometimes we hide our brightness because we're afraid of being too much, of taking up too much space. But true elegance comes from embracing our full selves." Catherine felt tears prick at her eyes as she looked at these incredible creations. Each one was more beautiful than anything she had ever worn, but, more than that, each one seemed to call to a part of her that she had kept carefully hidden for years. Then, Anita revealed the third piece, and Catherine felt her world shift on its axis. It was a creation in royal blue and gold that seemed to embody everything magical about Mogul design while still feeling thoroughly modern. The lehenga skirt was a deep midnight blue with gold threadwork that created patterns of incredible complexity and beauty. The koli top was adorned with the same gold work, but cut in a style that was both modest and utterly flattering. But it was the dupatta that truly took Catherine's breath away, a gossamer creation in the palest gold that seemed to float on air, embroidered with tiny silver stars that caught the light like captured moonbeams. "This," Anita said quietly, "is what I saw when I first learned you were coming to India. I saw a woman ready to embrace her own power, ready to step into her role not just as a royal, but as a bridge between cultures. This outfit honors the traditions of Mogul court dress while being completely appropriate for a modern princess." Catherine couldn't speak. The outfit was more than beautiful, it was transformative. Just looking at it made her stand straighter, made her feel more graceful and confident than she had in years. It was as if Anita had somehow seen into her soul and created the physical manifestation of the woman she had always wanted to become. May I try it on?" Catherine asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Anita's smile was radiant. "I was hoping you would ask." The fitting process was unlike anything Catherine had ever experienced. Anita's assistants worked with practiced efficiency, but also with a reverence that made Catherine feel like she was participating in some ancient ritual. As each piece of the outfit was carefully arranged, Catherine felt herself transforming, not just physically but emotionally. When she finally stood before the full-length mirror, she hardly recognized herself. The woman looking back at her was regal and confident, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with conventional prettiness and everything to do with owning her power. The blue and gold of the outfit brought out the color of her eyes and complemented her skin tone in ways she had never experienced with her usual wardrobe. But, more than that, the outfit seemed to have awakened something in her posture, in the way she held her head and carried herself. "You look like you were born to wear this," Anita said softly, and Catherine could hear the satisfaction in her voice. "You look like a queen." Catherine turned slowly, watching the way the dupatta caught the light and how the gold embroidery seemed to come alive with her movements. The outfit was undeniably stunning, but what surprised her most was how comfortable she felt wearing it. Despite being so far outside her usual style, it felt like coming home to herself. "I've never worn anything like this," Catherine admitted, running her hands over the intricate embroidery. "In my world, fashion is usually about blending in, about not causing controversy or drawing too much attention. This is the opposite of everything I've ever done." "And how does that feel?" Anita asked with a knowing smile. Catherine considered the question seriously, continuing to study her reflection. "Terrifying," she said honestly. "But also liberating. Like I've been wearing costumes my whole life and this is the first time I'm wearing something that actually represents who I am." They spent the next hour discussing the significance of various design elements, with Anita explaining how each component of the outfit connected to Mughal traditions while serving the practical needs of a modern royal engagement. The conversation was enlightening, but Catherine found herself only half listening, too mesmerized by her own transformation to focus completely. When it came time to change back into her regular clothes, Catherine felt a profound sense of loss. The simple white kurta that had seemed appropriate that morning now felt bland and uninspiring. She found herself missing the weight of the embroidered fabric, the way the dupatta had made her feel graceful and ethereal. "When will I wear it?" she asked Anita as they prepared to leave. "Tomorrow evening, for your visit to the cultural center. It's the perfect occasion, formal enough to honor the craftsmanship, but intimate enough that you'll feel comfortable taking this important step." As they drove back to the hotel, Catherine was unusually quiet, processing the magnitude of what had just occurred. It wasn't just about trying on a beautiful outfit, it was about catching a glimpse of who she could become if she had the courage to step fully into her own power. William noticed her contemplative mood and reached over to take her hand. "How did it go?" Catherine squeezed his hand, trying to find words for the experience. "I think I understand now why this trip was so important. It's not just about diplomacy or cultural exchange. It's about discovering parts of ourselves that we didn't know existed." That evening, as she prepared for bed, Catherine found herself standing before the hotel room mirror, trying to see traces of the woman she had been in Anita's atelier. Tomorrow would bring the moment of truth, when she would wear the Mughal-inspired creation in public for the first time. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying, but, as she touched the little bracelet the child had given her, listening to its gentle chime, she knew she was ready for whatever transformation awaited her. The day of the cultural center visit dawned with an intensity that seemed to match Catherine's emotional state. She had barely slept, her mind swirling with anticipation and anxiety about wearing Anita Dongre's creation in public for the first time. This wasn't just about putting on a beautiful outfit, it was about making a statement that would be photographed, analyzed, and discussed around the world. Catherine spent the morning at a local school, engaging with children who were learning English and eager to practice with their royal visitor. Their innocent enthusiasm and genuine curiosity provided a welcome distraction from her growing nervousness about the evening ahead. The children asked her about everything from palace life to her favorite foods, their questions delivered with the kind of honest directness that only children possess. One little boy, perhaps 8 years old, raised his hand shyly and asked, "Princess, do you like wearing beautiful clothes?" Catherine paused, considering the question more seriously than he probably expected. "I'm learning to appreciate them more," she said honestly. "Sometimes wearing something special can help us feel more confident and show respect for the people we're visiting." The teacher smiled approvingly at her response, but Catherine found herself thinking about her words long after they had left the school. Was that really what tonight was about, showing respect? Or was it about something deeper, something more personal and transformative? The afternoon was spent at a spice market, where the assault on her senses was overwhelming in the best possible way. The air was thick with the aromas of cardamom, cinnamon, turmeric, and dozens of other spices she couldn't identify. Vendors called out their wares in melodious voices, and the visual feast of colors was almost psychedelic in its intensity. Catherine found herself drawn to a stall run by an elderly woman whose weathered hands moved with practiced precision as she measured out various spices for customers. The woman's sari was a simple cotton in faded yellow, but she wore it with such dignity and grace that it looked more regal than many of the expensive dresses in Catherine's wardrobe. Through a translator, Catherine learned that the woman had been running this stall for over 40 years, following in the footsteps of her mother and grandmother before her. Her eyes sparkled with pride as she showed Catherine the various spice blends she had perfected over the decades, each one a closely guarded family secret. "She says," the translator explained, "that the secret to any good recipe is not just the spices you use, but the confidence with which you use them. She says cooking, like wearing beautiful clothes, is about believing in yourself and your choices." Catherine felt a shiver of recognition at these words. Even here, in the most unlikely of places, the universe seemed to be sending her messages about courage and self-confidence. As the afternoon wore on, Catherine's nerves about the evening began to intensify. The cultural center event was a significant engagement, with over 200 local dignitaries, artists, and cultural leaders expected to attend. The local media would be present, and she knew that photographs from the event would be transmitted around the world within hours. Back at the hotel, Catherine's team of stylists and security personnel were already preparing for the evening's transformation. The Anita Dongre creation had been delivered that afternoon, along with jewelry that had been specially selected to complement the outfit. Catherine stared at the garment hanging in her dressing room, its blue and gold threads seeming to shimmer with their own inner light. Her personal assistant, Margaret, knocked gently on the dressing room door. "Ma'am, shall we begin preparing? The makeup artist is here, and we'll need plenty of time to ensure everything is perfect." Catherine took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. "Yes, let's begin." The preparation process was more elaborate than usual, requiring the expertise of a traditional Indian dresser who had been specially brought in to ensure that every element of the outfit was worn correctly. Catherine watched in fascination as the woman, Mrs. Lakshmi, explained the significance of each component and the proper way to drape the dupatta. "The dupatta is not just decoration," Mrs. Lakshmi explained in careful English as she demonstrated the traditional draping technique. "It is symbol of grace, of femininity, of cultural respect. How you wear it tells story about who you are and how you honor the traditions you are embracing." Catherine nodded, absorbing every word. She was beginning to understand that wearing this outfit was about much more than looking beautiful. It was about cultural dialogue, about showing genuine respect and appreciation for Indian traditions while remaining true to her own identity. The makeup artist worked with subtle precision, enhancing Catherine's natural features while incorporating elements that would complement the richness of the outfit. A hint of gold eyeshadow brought out the golden threads in the embroidery, while a deeper shade of lipstick than she usually wore added sophistication and glamour. When it came time to put on the outfit itself, Catherine felt her heart racing. Each piece, the lehenga, the choli, the dupatta, was a work of art in its own right, but together they created something truly magical. As Mrs. Lakshmi carefully arranged each element, Catherine felt herself transforming not just physically but spiritually. The jewelry selection had been thoughtfully curated to complement rather than compete with the outfit's intricate embroidery. A delicate gold necklace with blue sapphires echoed the colors of the ensemble, while matching earrings caught the light beautifully. The pieces were substantial enough to honor the formality of the occasion but elegant enough to maintain the outfit's sophisticated balance. When Catherine finally stood before the full-length mirror, the transformation was complete and breathtaking. The woman looking back at her bore little resemblance to the conservative, safely dressed princess who had arrived in India just days before. This woman was regal, confident, and utterly captivating. The midnight blue of the lehenga made her skin glow, while the gold embroidery caught and reflected light with every subtle movement. The dupatta, draped perfectly over her shoulder, added an element of ethereal grace that took her breath away. "Ma'am," Margaret said softly, her voice filled with admiration, "you look absolutely stunning." William appeared in the doorway at that moment, and the expression on his face confirmed what Catherine already knew: this outfit had transformed her in ways that went far beyond the physical. He approached slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. "Catherine," he said, his voice filled with wonder, "you look like you belong in a palace from a fairy tale. But, more than that, you look like yourself, the most beautiful, confident version of yourself I've ever seen." Catherine felt tears threaten at his words. "I feel different," she admitted. "I feel like I could conquer the world in this outfit." "Then, let's go show the world," William said, offering her his arm. The journey to the cultural center was a blur of anticipation and nerves. Catherine found herself constantly checking her reflection in the car window, amazed anew each time by the transformation. The outfit moved beautifully as she walked, the fabric flowing around her like liquid starlight. Their arrival at the cultural center created an immediate stir. Catherine could hear the excited murmurs of the gathered crowd as she stepped out of the car, and camera flashes began immediately. But, instead of feeling exposed or uncomfortable as she usually did under such scrutiny, Catherine felt empowered. This outfit didn't just make her look different, it made her feel like she could handle anything the evening might bring. The cultural center's director, Mr. Rajesh Mehta, greeted them at the entrance with obvious delight. Your Royal Highness, he said to Catherine, his voice filled with appreciation, you honor us tremendously by embracing our traditions so beautifully. You look absolutely radiant. As they moved through the reception area, Catherine became aware of the profound impact her outfit was having on the other guests. Conversations quieted as she passed, and she could see the genuine admiration and respect in people's faces. This wasn't the polite applause she was accustomed to at royal events, this was something deeper, something that spoke to real cultural appreciation and connection. An elderly gentleman, introduced as a renowned expert on Mogol art and culture, approached Catherine with tears in his eyes. Ma'am, he said, his voice shaking slightly with emotion, to see you honoring our heritage so beautifully, it means more than you could possibly know. You are not just wearing our traditional dress, you are celebrating our history and showing the world that our culture is worthy of respect and admiration. Catherine felt her own eyes well up with tears at his words. This was what she had been missing all these years, the understanding that fashion could be a form of diplomacy, a way to build bridges and show respect across cultural boundaries. The evening's program included traditional dance performances, poetry readings, and musical presentations that showcased the rich cultural heritage of India. Catherine found herself completely absorbed in the performances, and she noticed that her appreciation seemed somehow deeper, more nuanced, when she was dressed in a way that honored the same traditions being celebrated on stage. During the traditional dance performance, a classical piece that told the story of a Mogol princess, Catherine felt a profound connection to the narrative. The dancer's costume was similar in style to her own outfit, and, as she watched the graceful movements and expressive gestures, Catherine felt like she was gaining insight not just into Indian culture, but into the historical women who had worn similar garments centuries before. At intermission, she was approached by several of the female guests, who complimented not just her appearance but her obvious respect for their cultural traditions. One woman, a prominent social activist, told her, "You have shown tonight that true elegance comes not from expensive clothes, but from the confidence to embrace something new and the wisdom to honor its significance." As the evening progressed, Catherine found herself relaxing into the outfit and the experience. The initial nervousness had been replaced by a growing sense of confidence and belonging. She moved more gracefully, spoke more boldly, and engaged more deeply with the conversations around her. The outfit had somehow unlocked a part of her personality that she had kept carefully hidden for years. When it came time for the formal photographs, Catherine felt ready. Instead of the usual anxiety she experienced during photo sessions, she felt poised and confident. The photographers seemed to sense the change in her energy, and the session took on a quality of artistic collaboration rather than obligation. As the evening wound down and they prepared to leave, Catherine realized that this experience had fundamentally changed her understanding of herself and her role. Wearing Anita Dongre's creation hadn't just been about looking beautiful for one evening, it had been about discovering that she had the courage to step outside her comfort zone and embrace something entirely new. The ride back to the hotel was quiet, both Catherine and William processing the magnitude of the evening. Catherine fingered the intricate embroidery of her outfit, marveling at the craftsmanship and the way it had made her feel throughout the evening. "Tonight changed something," she said finally, her voice soft with wonder. "I felt like the person I was always meant to be but was too afraid to become." William squeezed her hand. "I could see it," he said. "Everyone could see it. You were luminous tonight, completely in your element." As they arrived back at the hotel, Catherine knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to continue this journey of self-discovery. But tonight had proven that transformation was possible, that she had the courage to embrace beauty and boldness in equal measure, and that sometimes the most profound changes come from having the courage to wear our truth on the outside as well as carry it within. The morning after the cultural center event brought with it a profound sense of transformation that Catherine couldn't shake. As she stood on her hotel balcony, watching the sun rise over Delhi, she felt like a different person than the woman who had arrived in India just a few days earlier. The Anita Dongre creation hung carefully in her dressing room, no longer just a beautiful outfit but a symbol of the courage she had discovered within herself. The international media response to her appearance had been immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from friends, family, and staff members back home, all expressing amazement at the photographs that had already spread around the world. But, more than the external validation, what mattered to Catherine was the internal shift she felt, a new confidence and understanding of her own power and potential. William joined her on the balcony, bringing tea and the morning newspapers. The front pages of several Indian publications featured photographs of Catherine from the previous evening, with headlines praising her respect for Indian culture and her stunning transformation. But it was the British media response that truly surprised her. Instead of the criticism she had feared for departing from her usual conservative style, the coverage was universally positive, with fashion experts and cultural commentators praising her bold choice and elegant execution. "Listen to this," William said, reading from his tablet. The Times fashion editor writes, "The Duchess has demonstrated that true diplomatic fashion isn't about playing it safe, but about showing genuine respect and appreciation for the culture you're visiting." Her choice to wear Anita Dongre's stunning mogul-inspired creation showed cultural intelligence and personal courage that elevated both her appearance and her role as a cultural ambassador. Catherine felt a warm glow of satisfaction at these words. The risk she had taken in stepping so far outside her comfort zone had not only paid off but had apparently redefined how people viewed her relationship with fashion and culture. Their schedule for the day included visits to several more cultural sites, but Catherine's mind was already racing ahead to their final evening in India. Anita Dongre had invited them to a private dinner at her home, where Catherine would have the opportunity to meet other prominent figures in Indian fashion and arts. It would be a more intimate affair than the cultural center event, but no less significant in its own way. Their first stop of the day was the Lotus Temple, an architectural marvel that served as a Baha'i house of worship. The building's unique design, with its 27 marble petals arranged in clusters to form a lotus flower, took Catherine's breath away. As they walked through the serene gardens surrounding the temple, she found herself reflecting on the symbolism of the lotus, a flower that grows from muddy waters but emerges pure and beautiful. "It's like what happened to me last night," Catherine confided to William as they sat in the temple's meditation hall. "I felt like I emerged from years of playing it safe and hiding who I really was. That outfit didn't just change how I looked, it changed how I felt about myself." The temple's guide, a soft-spoken man named Mr. Singh, overheard her comment and smiled gently. "That is the true power of embracing one's authentic self," he said. "When we have the courage to show the world who we really are, we inspire others to do the same. Your choice last evening will encourage many other women to be brave in their own lives." These words stayed with Catherine as they continued their day of cultural exploration. At the Crafts Museum, she was introduced to several master artisans who had contributed to the creation of her outfit. Meeting the embroiderers, weavers, and beadwork specialists who had spent weeks creating the intricate details gave her an even deeper appreciation for what she had worn. One elderly embroiderer, Mrs. Asha Devi, showed Catherine the specific techniques used to create the gold threadwork on her lehenga. Through a translator, she explained that each stitch was not just functional but carried symbolic meaning, with patterns representing prosperity, happiness, and spiritual growth. She says, the translator explained, that when a woman wears clothing made with such intention and care, she carries with her the blessings and good wishes of all who created it. She says you wore their artwork with such grace and dignity that you have honored not just their craft, but their entire heritage. Catherine felt overwhelmed by the profound responsibility and privilege this represented. Wearing Anita's creation hadn't just been about looking beautiful, it had been about carrying the hopes, dreams, and artistic legacy of countless skilled craftspeople. As afternoon faded into evening, Catherine found herself growing nervous again, but this was a different kind of nervousness than she had felt before the cultural center event. Tonight's dinner would be more intimate, more personal, and she knew that it would likely be her final opportunity to wear traditional Indian clothing during this visit. Anita had suggested that Catherine wear the emerald green lehenga for the dinner, explaining that its lotus motifs would be perfect for the garden setting of her home. As Catherine prepared for the evening, she felt a profound sadness at the thought that this magical period of transformation might be coming to an end. The makeup and styling process had become familiar now, but no less special. Mrs. Lakshmi returned to help with the draping of the dupatta, and Catherine found herself absorbing every detail of the process, wanting to remember each step for the future. When she was fully dressed in the emerald ensemble, Catherine felt that same surge of confidence and grace that had transformed her the night before. This outfit, with its intricate lotus embroidery and gold thread, seemed to capture the essence of her entire Indian journey and growth, beauty emerging from challenge, and the courage to bloom fully. Anita's home was a stunning example of contemporary Indian architecture, with traditional elements seamlessly integrated into a thoroughly modern design. The dinner was held in her garden, which was filled with jasmine and marigolds whose fragrance perfumed the warm evening air. Lanterns hung from the trees, creating an atmosphere that was both elegant and intimate. The guest list was small but distinguished, including several prominent figures from the worlds of fashion, art, and literature. Catherine found herself engaged in conversations that ranged from the philosophy of design to the role of tradition in contemporary culture. What surprised her most was how confidently she participated in these discussions, offering insights and asking questions with a boldness that would have been unthinkable just a week earlier. During dinner, Catherine sat between Anita and Dr. Priya Sharma, the cultural historian she had met on her first day. Dr. Sharma had become something of a mentor during Catherine's visit, helping her understand the deeper significance of the cultural experiences she had encountered. "You know," Dr. Sharma said as they enjoyed a dessert of kulfi garnished with cardamom and pistachios, "when I first learned that you would be visiting India, I hoped that you might have transformative experiences here. But I never imagined the transformation would be so visible and so inspiring." Catherine blushed at the compliment. "I feel like India has awakened something in me that I didn't even know was sleeping," she admitted. "These outfits, these experiences, they've shown me that there's so much more to who I can be than I ever imagined." Anita leaned forward, her eyes bright with interest. "And what will you do with this new understanding when you return home?" It was a question Catherine had been pondering since the previous evening. How could she integrate this newfound confidence and cultural appreciation into her life back in England? How could she honor the transformation she had experienced without losing the essence of who she had discovered herself to be? "I think," Catherine said slowly, choosing her words carefully, "I need to find ways to be braver in all aspects of my life. Not just with fashion, but with how I approach my royal duties, my relationships, and my own personal growth. These experiences have taught me that taking calculated risks can lead to beautiful outcomes." The conversation continued late into the evening, with guests sharing stories about their own transformative experiences and the role that fashion and culture played in their personal journeys. Catherine found herself completely absorbed in these discussions, feeling like she was part of a community of creative, thoughtful people who understood the power of artistic expression and cultural exchange. As the evening wound down, Anita presented Catherine with a special gift, a delicate gold bracelet featuring tiny lotus charms that echoed the motifs from her outfits. "So you'll always remember," Anita said softly, "that you have the courage to bloom wherever you're planted." Catherine felt tears well up in her eyes as she accepted the gift. It would serve as a constant reminder of the lessons she had learned in India and the woman she had discovered herself to be. The final morning of their visit arrived with bittersweet intensity. Catherine woke early, wanting to savor these last hours in a country that had changed her so profoundly. As she packed her regular clothes back into her suitcases, she felt a deep reluctance to return to her old wardrobe and, by extension, her old way of being in the world. But Anita's creations would be coming home with her, carefully preserved and ready to be worn again when the right occasion presented itself. More importantly, the confidence and self-awareness she had gained would travel with her always, influencing not just how she dressed but how she approached every aspect of her life. Their farewell ceremony at the airport was emotional, with dozens of people they had met during their visit coming to see them off. Catherine hugged Mrs. Sharma, Mrs. Lakshmi, and the children from the hospital, feeling like she was leaving family members behind. As their plane lifted off from Delhi, Catherine pressed her face to the window for one last look at the city that had transformed her. The little bells on the bracelet given to her by the sick child chimed softly as the plane banked, and she smiled at the sound, a perfect musical accompaniment to her thoughts about the magic of the past week. "So," William said, taking her hand as India disappeared beneath the clouds, "what happens now?" Catherine fingered the lotus bracelet Anita had given her, considering the question. "Now," she said with a confidence that surprised even her, "I take everything I've learned and use it to become the woman I was always meant to be. I stop hiding behind safe choices and start making decisions that honor both my position and my authentic self." As their plane carried them back toward England, Catherine knew that while the physical journey to India was ending, the emotional and spiritual journey she had begun there was just starting. She had discovered that transformation was possible, that courage could be cultivated, and that sometimes the most profound changes come from having the bravery to step completely outside our comfort zones and embrace something beautiful and unknown. The woman who would arrive in London was fundamentally different from the one who had left just a week earlier. Catherine had learned that fashion could be diplomacy, that confidence could be cultivated, and that the most powerful statement a woman could make was to embrace her full potential without apology or hesitation. India had shown her that she was capable of being both respectful of tradition and boldly innovative, both diplomatically appropriate and personally authentic. Most importantly, she had learned that true elegance comes not from playing it safe, but from having the courage to let one's inner light shine through, whether that light is reflected in the gold threads of a Mughal-inspired lehenga or in the confidence to step boldly into whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead.